The viral moment that turned into a trap. The Island Boys didn't just go viral, they got trapped inside the very meme that made them famous. One day, Frankie and Alex Venegas were two young twins freestyling in a pool with wild hair, face tattoos, and diamond teeth. The next day, the whole internet was repeating one line: "I'm an island boy." It looked like a joke at first, but behind that joke was a real money machine, a sudden spotlight, and a countdown nobody could see yet. In October 2021, the clip exploded across TikTok. There was no giant label rollout, no polished marketing plan, no perfect music video. It was raw, strange, funny, catchy, and impossible to ignore. Some people laughed with them. Some people laughed at them. But either way, everybody was watching. And in the internet era, attention is currency. The Island Boys understood that fast. Their followers jumped. Their names spread across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, podcasts, reaction channels, and rap pages. Even people who didn't like the song still knew the hook. That was the dangerous part. Hate views and fan views looked almost the same when the numbers started climbing. For a moment, it seemed like Frankie and Alex had cracked the code. They didn't need radio. They didn't need approval from hip-hop gatekeepers. They just needed phones pointed at them, comment sections arguing, and people sharing the clip because it was too bizarre to ignore. Fame arrived overnight, and with it came money, interviews, features, cameo requests, music drops, and a lifestyle that looked bigger than their actual foundation. But the same internet that built them was already sharpening the knives. The audience wanted entertainment, not growth. They wanted chaos, not maturity. And when the Island Boys tried to turn a viral joke into a long-term brand, the pressure started exposing every weakness. Before we go deeper, comment where you're watching from right now. If you think the Island Boys destroyed their own chance, comment 1. If you think the internet used them and threw them away, comment 2. And make sure you subscribe, because this story gets darker with every chapter. When fame started paying like a lottery ticket, once I'm an Island Boy took off, the twins didn't just get attention, they got access. Cameo became one of their biggest cash machines. Fans, trolls, and curious viewers paid for personalized videos because the Island Boys had become a living internet headline. Some people bought clips as jokes. Some bought them because they genuinely liked the twins. But the money was real either way. At their peak, reports around their online business made it seem like the twins were pulling in serious money from short videos, appearances, social media, music drops, and adult-oriented platforms. For two young men who came from a difficult background, the sudden income must have felt unreal. One month they were fighting for relevance. The next month, they were showing off cars, jewelry, cash, and a lifestyle that screamed, "We made it." But fast money can be more dangerous than slow money. Slow money teaches discipline. Fast money convinces you it will never stop. And that's where the Island Boys' rise started turning into a warning sign. Instead of building quietly, they built loudly. Instead of protecting the brand, they became the brand 24 hours a day. Every argument, every flex, every strange clip, every public reaction became part of the machine. Their look was already extreme, so the only way to keep attention was to act even more extreme. That works for a moment, but eventually, the audience gets numb. The twins were not moving like traditional artists. They were moving like viral characters, trying to stay on top of a wave that was already crashing. Music came out, but the public wasn't focused on the songs. People cared more about the next weird interview, the next internet beef, the next public meltdown, the next clip that could be roasted. That is the cruel side of viral fame. It gives you a stage, but it doesn't always give you respect. The Island Boys had money coming in, but respect was leaking out. And once the audience decides you are entertainment instead of talent, every move becomes harder to recover from. The childhood behind the chaos. To understand why the Island Boys handled fame the way they did, you have to look at where they came from. Frankie and Alex Venegas were not raised inside some polished entertainment system. Their story included loss, instability, pressure, and a rough road long before TikTok ever found them. Their father passed away when they were young, and they were raised by their mother. Losing a father figure early can leave a deep mark, especially when young boys are trying to figure out identity, respect, discipline, and survival. From what has been publicly discussed, their teenage years were not clean or easy. There were legal problems, trouble at home, and a pattern of behavior that showed how much chaos already existed before fame arrived. That matters because fame does not fix the person underneath, it amplifies them. If someone is grounded, fame can give them opportunity. If someone is unstable, fame can pour gasoline on every issue they never solved. The twins became famous before they had the structure to handle fame. They had attention, but not enough guidance. They had income, but not enough long-term strategy. They had fans and haters watching, but not enough emotional control to separate performance from real life. The result was a brand built on impulse. And because their image was already wild, the public expected them to keep feeding that image. Hair, tattoos, jewelry, flexing, arguing, controversy, it all became part of the product. But behind the product were real young men dealing with pressure, family history, public mockery, and a non-stop need to stay relevant. A lot of people laughed at them without asking what happens. When two people with a difficult past suddenly get handed fame, money, and millions of critics overnight, that doesn't erase their choices, but it explains why the fall came so fast. They were not just battling the internet. They were battling old wounds in front of the internet. And the internet is not a safe place to heal. The Logan Paul moment that changed the temperature. One of the biggest turning points came when the Island Boys appeared on Logan Paul's podcast. At first, it looked like another viral opportunity. They were stepping into a bigger media room, sitting across from people with massive platforms, and getting the kind of exposure that many internet acts dream about. But the conversation quickly turned tense. George Janko gave them advice about investing money, thinking long-term, and preparing for the future. It was the kind of advice that might have helped them if they received it calmly. But in that moment, the twins seemed to hear it as disrespect. Instead of taking the advice, they pushed back. The energy shifted. Comments about money started flying. Pride entered the room, and before long, the appearance became less about promotion and more about attitude. The walkout became another viral clip, but not the kind that builds credibility. It made the Island Boys look defensive, emotional, and unwilling to listen. That podcast moment hurt them because it exposed a bigger problem. They were getting advice from people who understood internet fame at a higher level, but they treated the advice like an insult. That is one of the fastest ways to lose support. People can forgive inexperience. They have a harder time forgiving arrogance. After that, the Island Boys became easier targets. The public started framing them as young men who got rich too fast and thought the money would last forever. Clips from the podcast spread. Reaction channels jumped on it. People who already doubted them now had new proof to point at. And the worst part is that the advice was not even wild. Invest, protect your money, think beyond the moment. Those are basic survival rules for anyone who goes viral. But when you are young, loud, and suddenly rich, basic advice can sound like disrespect if it touches your ego. That moment did not destroy them by itself, but it changed the temperature. After the podcast, the Island Boys were no longer just a funny viral act. They became a public lesson in what happens when fame meets pride before wisdom arrives. When the internet stopped laughing with them. At the beginning, the Island Boys had a strange advantage. Even their haters helped them grow. People mocked the song, stitched the video, made jokes, and shared clips everywhere. But the twins benefited because the attention kept moving. The meme was too big to ignore. Then something changed. The jokes started feeling old. The shock factor started wearing off. And once the audience got used to the hair, tattoos, with stadions needed something stronger to keep the same level of attention. That is where viral fame becomes a trap. When your first moment is built on surprise, your second moment has to be even louder. If it isn't, people move on. But if you keep getting louder, you risk becoming messy, desperate, or uncomfortable to watch. The Island Boys were caught between those two bad options. Their music did not fully silence the critics. Their public image did not mature fast enough. Their controversies started getting more attention than their songs. Instead of being seen as artists building a catalog, they became online personalities surrounded by conflict. The comment sections became brutal. Every move was judged. Every outfit, every post, every interview, every performance became another chance for people to roast them. And when they showed frustration, the internet enjoyed it even more. The public loves building someone up, but it also loves watching them react when the applause turns into laughter. Their live appearances and public moments became risky because people were waiting for failure. If a crowd booed, it became a headline. If they argued, it became content. If they tried to flex money, people questioned whether they were really winning. The same visibility that once made them rich now made every mistake impossible to hide. This is where the Island Boys' story became bigger than two viral twins. It became a case study in modern fame. The internet can make you famous without making you respected. And once people decide your downfall is more entertaining than your success, the algorithm keeps feeding the fall. Controversy became the brand. As the attention from the original song cooled down, the controversies became louder. Public arguments, online backlash, strange promotional choices, and legal headlines all started stacking on top of each other. The twins were no longer being discussed, mainly because of music. They were being discussed because something new and chaotic always seemed to happen. That is a dangerous shift for any public figure. When controversy becomes your main product, you have to keep producing controversy to stay visible. But every new scandal also burns another bridge, scares away another sponsor, and makes serious opportunities harder to land. The Island Boys faced criticism over commissioned videos, public behavior, family-related drama, and moments that made fans question where the brand was going. Some of the backlash came from people who never liked them in the first place, but some came from viewers who had once been curious and then slowly became exhausted. There were also legal situations around their circle and public reports involving arrests and police activity connected to people around them. In moments like that, even if the full story is complicated, the image damage happens fast. Headlines do not wait for nuance. Comment sections do not care about legal details. The public sees smoke and assumes fire. For the Island Boys, every headline made the brand feel less like fun and more like instability. And instability can get attention, but it rarely builds trust. Brands don't want uncertainty. Serious collaborators don't want constant damage control. Fans don't want to feel like the person they support might embarrass them the next week. The twins still had visibility, but visibility is not the same as momentum. Momentum moves you forward. Visibility can keep you stuck in the same loop. They were famous enough for everyone to know them, but not respected enough for people to root for a long-term career. That is one of the hardest places to be. Too famous to live normally, but not stable enough to turn fame into lasting power. The money machine started slowing down. At their peak, the Island Boys seemed like they had several income streams working at once. Cameo, social media, music, merchandise, appearances, and other online platforms all fed the machine. But when your income depends heavily on attention, the money slows down when the audience gets tired. Cameo was a perfect example. In the beginning, people paid because the novelty was fresh. Getting a personalized clip from the Island Boys felt funny, random, and viral. But novelty does not last forever. Once everyone has seen the joke, fewer people want to pay for it. The price drops. The requests slow down. The machine starts making strange noises. Music streams also faced a challenge. The original viral moment brought millions of eyes, but converting meme attention into loyal music fans is extremely difficult. People may watch a funny clip 10 times and still never become real supporters. That gap between attention and loyalty is where many viral artists disappear. The twins' lifestyle made the pressure worse. Expensive cars, jewelry, flexing, and a public image built around looking rich can become a financial trap. When fans expect you to look successful, you may keep spending just to maintain the illusion, even while the income changes behind the scenes. That is how fast money turns into fast pressure. The public sees the diamonds, but not the bills. They see the cars, but not the maintenance. They see the mansion clips, but not the long-term costs. And if legal fees, family problems, or business issues enter the picture, the money can disappear faster than it arrived. The Island Boys' former team in public discussions around their finances painted a picture of money coming in quickly and going out just as quickly. Whether every number was exact or not, the lesson was obvious. Viral income is not the same as wealth. Wealth is what remains after the trend cools down. And for the Island Boys, the trend was cooling. Family, pressure, and the cost of public life. As the public drama grew, the personal side became harder to ignore. The Island Boys were not just business partners or internet characters. They were brothers, twins, family, and that made the pressure even more intense. When family and fame mix, the lines can get messy. Arguments are not just arguments, they become content. Emotional moments are not just private struggles, they become clips. If one brother makes a decision, both can feel the impact. If one gets criticized, the other is pulled into the storm. That kind of pressure can damage even strong relationships. Public discussions around the twins' family life, their upbringing, and their personal conflicts created a darker layer around the story. Viewers started seeing that behind the loud branding was a lot of unresolved tension. The more the internet watched, the less private their problems became. And privacy matters. Without privacy, people perform even when they are hurting. They act tough when they are embarrassed. They flex when they feel insecure. They argue louder because silence feels like weakness. For the Island Boys, the camera was almost always nearby, and that meant every emotional reaction could become another public judgment. Their choices also affected how people viewed their mother, their childhood, and their brotherhood. When your family history becomes part of the internet conversation, the damage can go deeper than a bad headline. It can follow you into every interview, every comment section, every future attempt to rebuild. This is where their fall became uncomfortable to watch. At first, it was easy for people to laugh. Two wild-looking twins singing in a pool, a catchy hook, a meme. But later, the story started looking less like comedy and more like a warning about young people becoming famous before they had the tools to survive fame. The internet wanted a show. The Island Boys gave them one. But the price of that show kept rising. The fall nobody could ignore. By the time the Island Boys reached the later stages of their viral cycle, the story had changed completely. They were no longer the mysterious twins from a poolside freestyle. They were a symbol of how fast internet fame can rise, how badly it can be managed, and how quickly the same audience can turn cold. The original hook still followed them everywhere, but now it felt more like a shadow than a trophy. I'm an Island Boy had opened the door, but it also locked them into a character. Every attempt to move beyond it had to fight against the meme version of themselves. That is a hard battle for any artist. Their controversies kept stacking. Their money story became less glamorous. Their public image became more unstable. Their serious music ambitions were often buried under drama, and the more they tried to stay relevant through shock, the more the public questioned whether there was any real plan left. But the Island Boys' fall was not just about bad choices. It was about the modern entertainment system. Platforms reward attention, even when that attention is unhealthy. Audiences demand constant content, even when the people making it are clearly under pressure. Young creators get paid for chaos before anyone teaches them how to build something stable. Still, responsibility matters. The twins had opportunities. They had visibility. They had money coming in. They had chances to listen, invest, improve their music, rebuild their image, and turn viral fame into something smarter. Instead, too many moments pushed the story toward conflict, flexing, and public backlash. That is why their downfall hit so hard. It felt preventable. They had the rare gift every creator wants, millions of people watching. But attention without direction becomes a storm. Money without discipline becomes a leak. Fame without humility becomes a trap. The Island Boys may still find a way to reinvent themselves, but the internet will not forget how fast the empire cracked. Their story is not just about two brothers. It is about what happens when the world gives you a microphone before you know what to say with it. The lesson behind the Island Boys' collapse. The Island Boys' story is not just a story about two viral brothers. It is a warning about what happens when fame arrives before discipline, money arrives before strategy, and millions of people start watching before the people being watched are ready for the pressure. Frankie and Alex had something most artists never get: instant recognition. In the music business, being noticed is one of the hardest parts. Thousands of rappers spend years trying to get one viral moment, one breakout hook, one clip that pushes them into the public conversation. The Island Boys got that moment. They had the attention, they had the algorithm, they had the internet repeating their words. But attention is only the front door. What you build after that decides whether the house stands or burns down. Their biggest mistake was not going viral. Their biggest mistake was treating viral fame like permanent power. The internet moves fast. A meme can make you famous in 1 week and make you old news the next. That means the smart move is to use the spotlight to build something stronger. Better music, smarter branding, real business structure, financial discipline, and a public image that can survive after the joke fades. Instead, the Island Boys often leaned deeper into chaos. They argued when they could have listened. They flexed when they could have planned. They turned personal drama into public entertainment when they could have protected their peace. And every time the audience reacted, the cycle became harder to escape. But there is also a human lesson here. It is easy to laugh at people when they fall. It is harder to admit that many young creators are being pushed into fame without guidance, emotional maturity, or real support. The Island Boys made their own choices, but they were also part of a culture that rewards drama more than growth. The same crowd that cheers your rise can become the crowd that celebrates your downfall. The peaceful lesson is simple. Fame should never replace character. Money should never replace wisdom. And family should never be sacrificed just to keep strangers entertained. Whether the Island Boys rebuild or fade completely, their story should remind every young artist watching that the goal is not just to go viral. The goal is to survive what comes after. If you think the Island Boys can still turn their story around, comment 1. If you think their best moment is already behind them, comment too. Like this video, share it with someone who follows rap drama, and subscribe for more deep stories behind the biggest names and wildest moments in hip-hop.